If you've been learning English pronunciation for a while, you probably know that there are a lot of sounds, and that can be very difficult sometimes. But today we're going to be talking about quite a few sounds in American English that you do not have to learn, and you will still sound completely natural and neutral. Hi, I'm Josh, your American English guide, and this is English Hacks Pronunciation, where I help you to sound more like a native and to understand natural American speech better. So yes, it is true, guys. There are a lot of sounds in American English, and you don't have to learn them all. You will still sound natural and neutral. And the first sound that you can completely ignore in American English is the R-colored That's right, you can completely ignore this. Why? Because you can simply replace it with the vowel sound. For example, instead of saying hurry, you can simply say hurry. I know that this is true because this is how I speak, and I still sound neutral because I speak one of the neutral sounding American English accents. And yes, if you did not know, there is not just one neutral American accent. You can learn more in the video that I have here. The second thing that you can completely ignore, and that will make things even easier and simpler for you, is you can ignore the L-colored and the L-colored For example, in the word people, we have at the end there, people. And instead of using this L-colored sound, you can simply replace it with that half L, by which I mean the dark L, but I call it the half L vowel sound. That's right, you can simply say people, people. Don't have to worry about and to just people. Now for the L-colored right, what I call the high schwa, like in book, for example, in the word pull, you can simply, again, do the sound, that half L, dark L vowel sound. So people, pull, multiple, culture, gulf, etc., etc., etc. This is going to make it so much easier, but it does mean you have to get that dark L, what I call the half L vowel sound. You have to get that sound first. But once you have it, you don't have to mix it with you don't have to mix it with ever. Again, this is part of how I speak in a neutral and natural way. The next American English sound that you can completely ignore and don't have to learn is the R-colored fourth vowel, like cat. This is used by some speakers, just like all these other variations. It's used by some speakers who also sound neutral, but it is not required to sound neutral. For example, I don't use it myself. So instead of saying, for example, carry, marry, Harry, all you have to do is use the third vowel, like bed, R-colored. So you can simply say carry, marry, Harry. Yes, that even applies for Mr. Potter from Gryffindor, Harry Potter. The fourth sound in American English that you can completely ignore is the sound. This will also affect a few other sounds that we will see on this list, so this is going to make multiple changes and make a lot of things so much easier for you to pronounce in American English. Now, even if you already learned this sound, that's fine, you can keep it, just keep doing what you're doing, but I've actually had some students who decided to change it the way I'm about to tell you, and they said that it makes things so much easier for them. So in American English, the way that some neutral speakers speak is that they have two sounds. They have and they have I don't do those 100% perfectly because I don't use those. What I use instead is called the caught merger. Notice I said those the same. Caught instead of caught. More and more speakers now naturally use this in American English. It's becoming more widespread across the country. So you might want to learn it. What we're going to do is that sound okay, like hot. What we're going to do is we're going to take that, move it back. Okay, so you're using now the back of the tongue and say ah instead of ah. Okay, so it's hot. Now what happened to ah? With the lips come out a little bit, it's kind of up here, that backwards C. Well, that is what brought this back. Okay, so it's like this sound moved back, this sound, the ah, moved down, the lips go away, and we're left with just ah using the back of the tongue. So now the word caught, which is caught, and the word caught, which is caught, right, becomes one sound, and now instead of learning two sounds, you only have to learn one, and you will still sound completely natural, completely neutral in American English. And this is probably one of the single most important gifts that I can give you for American English pronunciation, because as I said, it's going to affect other sounds. For example, instead of saying oi, this now becomes oi. Okay, now it's o plus I. Oi. Likewise, instead of saying R, okay, and making that R colored, that's going to go away and we're going to say or with an R colored O sound. And speaking of the O sound, that is the next one on the list, because you are probably taught by most, if not all teachers, that O is a diphthong, right? And it ends in like book. Now that is one way to make the sound. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's perfectly fine if you can make a nice, good American English O sound, but you don't have to do it that way. In fact, you can ignore the diphthong, just do the O part, and it's really all in the lips. Not 100%, but it's mostly all in the lips. So, O. I have a whole lesson on the O sound. You can use the California O or something similar. At the very least, you can take your native language O and just round the lips, and you'll sound probably almost perfect. So you do not have to do O as a diphthong. Now this also goes into the next point, which is that you can ignore all diphthongs except for A, I, Oi, and Ow. Okay, any other diphthongs that you hear about, like the ew diphthong, which doesn't exist, but some people call it that, you can completely ignore those. Those are not diphthongs. Don't even worry about it. And again, the start of oi is now from the O position going into I instead of the O position going into I. Oi. And the very last sound that you can completely ignore and you do not have to learn in American English is ir. This can be an R colored diphthong, right? I plus blend together, we get a triphthong, ir, like hire, fire, wire. Now the reason why you do not have to do this as a triphthong, the R colored I diphthong, is because you can put a small y, what I call a small y, between the I and the and instead of saying ire as like a blended sound, you can say ire. So it's not ire with a full Y sound, just a small little Y. Ire. And this is a perfectly normal thing to do. I have 2 lessons called R Colored Vowels the Easy Way Part 1, which talks about the 4, yes, there are only 4 R colored vowel sounds from the basic sounds, ear, air, R, or. And then I have a lesson about the R Colored Vowels the Easy Way Part 2, which talks about the diphthongs and R coloring, for example, A or I, ow, or oi. And you do not ever have to R color a diphthong, including ire. I know that this can be amazing and mind-blowing and there has to be something wrong here, but I promise you there's not, and this will make things easier. So thank you so very much for watching another English Hacks lesson, and I will see you guys in the next one.